Faith in action. 1 Peter 4, 1-11. I have my bilingual Bible here in Spanish and English. You know that every Bible versions have different subtitles. It was interesting that it starts in chapter 4 in the English calling the living for God. And that is our overall theme for these Bible studies. But in the Spanish, it talks about buenos administradores de la gracia de Dios, good stewards of God's grace. So the same chapter is focused in different ways in different languages. Isn't that beautiful to have that richness for us? What does it mean for us to live for God? What does it mean to have a faith in action? That is our theme today. The main question is, how do we practice our Christian faith within our current culture? Keep in mind culture as equal to the world. Peter urges the message to his readers. We are shaped not by this world, by God's love. The writer uses a dualistic dimension, the church in the world, two separate entities, or the outside culture and the inside culture. Although we need to resist the world, it is totally acceptable for the church to join in and recognize God's movement already in the world around us. That is about being missional. Now, let's take winter, where we are, hopefully soon coming out of it. The winter has a very beautiful dimension of the whiteness and walking through a river or close to a outside stream and seeing everything beautiful covered with snow, or seeing it come down from a window. But let's recognize the other negative aspect of the winter has been very cold. What about those who did not have electricity to warm their living space, to protect their elderly and the children? My heart goes for the disaster in Texas this past week. Going back to the text, 1 Peter 4, 1-11 has been interpreted in many Christian occasions as a way of disconnecting yourself from the world. We have all heard that type of interpretation because it might influence us negatively. What the text is trying to name here is risky behaviors that are self-gratifying but destructive for the others, and gives focus in creating space within the new emerging community where there is no space for those negative, risky behaviors. Instead, there is hospitality in the care for others. Can you see the two dimensions? You all know the word Peter in Greek is Petros, rock. So Petros is the founder of the community in Jerusalem. He has become the fisher of people, the messenger of Christ's news. We need to hear Peter using his authority as one of the 12. He is a leader in the emergent church, and he is writing this rich theology from a pastoral perspective. 3 points that I want you to keep in mind. Peter is trying to say that the believers will suffer like Christ. Peter is not prescribing suffering. It is describing the suffering that believers are already going through. This identification is done through the baptism of our identity. And we, the Gentiles, you and I, will be free from this sin by the will of God. Number 2, do not join the world in practicing these risky behaviors. Our behavior should be those of the kingdom value. So the risky behavior for today are the culture of gambling, the culture of consumerism, the culture of overuse of sex online, the culture of sexual abuse or abuse of alcohol and substance, and any type a behavior of self-gratification that forgets the other and uses the others as an object. Already the believers were being seen in the time of Peter as aliens in their own culture. This novel new religion movement is emerging. Peter is telling its listeners, his people, to be sure to associate positive actions in being faithful to Christ. And number 3, Peter is trying to say, we will be judged, be held accountable of our actions. It is important to exercise love within the Christian community, yes. In the creation of this new community, there is space for forgiveness and healing. In the spirit of serving one another, offering hospitality. And then Peter finishes with his doxology. For the glory and the power forever. Amen. Isn't that beautiful? So this week, brothers and sisters, practice the act of service as from God. As we do this, ask, why is this person lonely? Why is this person hungry? How can we overcome the inhumane approach towards others within the fear of getting sick? We can practice acts of kindness in small ways, even among this social distancing in this culture and trying to keep safe. Practicing God's kindness, not like the secular culture would do, but like Christ would do it. These acts of service are acts of kindness. And maybe we can sing then the famous 1964 song, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. Let's practice that.